The clock, with its relentless tick, tells us when we're too old, too late, too far behind. But what if the deepest creative power within us keeps no such calendar? This profound question lies at the heart of Frank Onassis' insightful book, The Set Time, Abraham, Sarah, and the Promised Child, which offers an esoteric and psychological interpretation of one of Scripture's most enduring stories. Onassis, working within the New Thought tradition akin to Neville Goddard and Charles Fillmore, reads the biblical narrative not as historical fact, but as a map of the inner life. In this view, Abraham and Sarah's journey is a blueprint for defying the illusion of too late and trusting the gestation of our deepest desires. It's crucial to understand that throughout this book, the child is always a symbol of any miraculous manifestation, be it a vocation, a love, a creative work, a healing, or a renewal. And Sarah's womb symbolizes the subconscious power of creation, not a literal physical state. The book guides us through 7 movements within a single human consciousness, starting with the expansion of our vision. Let's begin with Chapter 1, The Starry Sky, Expanding the Vision. The book starts with the Lord taking Abraham out of his tent at night and commanding him, "Look now toward heaven, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them, so shall thy seed be," as quoted in Genesis 15:5. Inwardly, the tent represents our current limited paradigm, the cramped enclosure of our present circumstances, beliefs, and assumptions. Inside this tent, our sense of the possible shrinks to the size of our immediate situation, limiting what we can imagine or hope for. The stars, however, symbolize the infinite field of possibility within our own imagination. To count the stars, which is impossible, is to realize the boundless scale of what's truly possible, far beyond the finite limitations we tally within our tent. The significance of Abraham being led out at night is particularly insightful. As Onassis points out in his deepenings, stars are only visible at night. The glare of daylight hides them. Similarly, the infinite possibilities are often only seen when the bright, obvious daylight of favorable circumstances fades, when the near and visible dim enough for the distant and infinite to appear. The night, then, isn't an absence of vision, but a condition for a deeper vision. The practice here is to deliberately step outside your mental tent, to stop counting your problems and limitations, and instead gaze upon this infinite potential, aligning your conscious mind with a power that keeps no measure, reads no calendar, and counts no limitation. Only a mind enlarged to the stars can conceive what the tent declared impossible. This brings us to Chapter 2, the Deadness, the 3D impossibility. The scripture explicitly states that Abraham and Sarah were old and well-stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women, from Genesis 18:11. This isn't a medical detail, but a symbol of total impossibility. Every visible circumstance declares the dream dead. Onassis explains that the story insists on this deadness because it reveals a crucial truth. True manifestation doesn't rely on secondary causes like favorable conditions or natural capacity. When every secondary cause is removed, only the primary power, the subconscious, remains visible. To the conscious mind, a dead end is final, but to the subconscious, it's merely emptiness, a blank canvas upon which creation can work. The practice is to claim your wish fulfilled despite the deadness, relying not on fleeting visible means, but on the living primary power that creates out of the void. This isn't denial, but a radical act of faith. In Chapter 3, The Birth of Ishmael, the Forced Compromise, we encounter a critical misstep. After years of waiting, Sarai grows impatient and, as Genesis 16:3-15 recounts, gives her Egyptian handmaid Hagar to Abram, and Ishmael is born. Inwardly, Hagar represents the lower 3D reality, a channel of forced manufacture, and Ishmael is the forced compromise, a lesser substitute we settle for when patience wears thin. The impatience isn't a loss of faith in the promise, but a loss of faith in the timing, an insistence on producing the manifestation now through our own contrivance, rather than trusting the set time. The handmaid being Egyptian is significant. Egypt symbolizes bondage to the physical and material. Forcing a manifestation through this lower channel produces something, yes, but it brings strife. Ishmael, in this sense, is not a failure to manifest, but a successful manifestation of the wrong thing. The practice is to refuse the handmaid of compromise, to bear the discomfort of the unfulfilled promise, and to hold out for the true child, which comes with peace, not strife. Moving to Chapter 4, the new name, becoming the one who receives. Before Isaac's birth, names are changed. Abram becomes Abraham, father of many nations, and Sarai becomes Sarah, princess, a mother of nations, as described in Genesis 17:5-15. This isn't just ceremonial, it's the assumption of a new identity. A name, in this context, is an inner self-conception. The promise belongs to a particular identity, to Abraham, the father of nations, not to Abram, the childless man. You don't receive the manifestation, then become the new self. You become the new self, and then receive the manifestation. Onaisi highlights that both names change because the transformation must encompass both the conscious mind, Abraham, and the subconscious feeling nature, Sarah. The practice is to consciously assume the new name, the identity of the fulfilled self, before any outer evidence appears, holding it so completely down to your deepest feelings that the outer world must eventually reflect this inner truth. Next, Chapter 5 explores the laughter of Sarah, the skepticism of the ego. When 3 visitors announce Isaac's imminent birth, Sarah, listening behind the tent door, laughs within herself at the impossible timeline, as recounted in Genesis 18:12-14. This isn't joyous laughter, but the bitter, cynical scoff of a heart disappointed too many times. This is the ego's skepticism, often secret and self-denying. When confronted, Sarah denies she laughed, saying, "I laughed not," because she was afraid. This hidden laughter is fatal to the promise because the subconscious manifests what it truly feels, not merely what the conscious mind affirms. The core question that answers this cynicism is anything too hard for the Lord? This question, Onaisi argues, challenges the ego's belief in limitation. The practice is to confront your own cynical laughter, the secret scoff that mocks your hope, and answer it with the question of the limitless. Force that cynicism to justify itself before the boundless power of imagination until it loses its ground and falls silent, freeing your feeling nature to hold the promise without mockery. Then comes Chapter 6, the set time, the law of gestation. Genesis 18:14 states, "At the time appointed I will return unto thee, and Sarah shall have a son." The set time is not an arbitrary date, but the law of gestation. Every seed, every desire planted in the subconscious has its own appointed season of ripening. The delay between planting and harvest isn't punishment, it's the necessary time for unseen formation. The bigger the promise, the longer the gestation. Onaisi emphasizes that the clock starts when the seed is truly planted, when the wish is genuinely assumed as fulfilled in the deep feeling nature. The delay we perceive is often not denial, but development. The practice is to trust this set time, to remain faithful through the long, unseen waiting. Release the demand to know when, refuse to dig up the seed with anxious doubt, or force a compromise out of impatience. Let the seed gestate undisturbed, knowing that at the appointed hour, neither early nor late, the promise will break into the light. Finally, Chapter 7, the name of laughter, the birth of Isaac. And Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son, Isaac, from Genesis 21:2-3. The birth comes exactly at the set time, vindicating the faithful waiting and proving that delay was development, not denial. And the child's name, Isaac, means he laughs. This is the poetic redemption of the entire journey. The bitter, cynical laughter of Sarah behind the tent door, the ego scoff, is now transformed into the overwhelming laughter of joy. The same faculty that once doubted now celebrates. The practice is to hold your promise faithfully to the set time, carrying even your imperfect, doubt-shot faith to the appointed hour. Trust that the birth itself will transform your doubt into joy, making you wonder you ever doubted at all. Onaisi provides further deepenings throughout the book, such as reflecting on the promise being likened to both stars and sand. The stars represent the lofty ideal, the infinite possibility in the imagination, while the sand signifies the tangible, concrete abundance on earth. The journey is about the stars becoming the sand, the ideal descending into manifestation. Similarly, on the deadness of the womb underscores that the deadness is not a final verdict, but a void, a clean canvas for creation. The practitioner's work section then distills these concepts into actionable steps, stepping outside the tent, claiming despite the deadness, refusing the handmaid, taking the new name, answering the laughter, trusting the gestation, and naming the laughter. In conclusion, the set time offers a powerful antidote to the panic of time, reminding us that the subconscious mind is eternal and keeps no clock. It only responds to our present state of consciousness. The book encourages us to trust that the seed we've truly planted is gestating, ripening in the unseen towards a fixed and certain hour. When that set time arrives, the promise will be born, and the very laughter of our doubt will transform into joy. If you found this exploration compelling, consider sharing this episode with someone else who might benefit from its message.